First off, I wake up this morning and it says, I don't know if you've seen the headline, but it says, Blue Jays expected to be the #1 bidder for Juan Soto. I mean,
I'm so excited that he's considering us. You know, he's got really any option in the world.
I'm in love with the good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top. Keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. The good life. Good life. Oh, good life. Good life. Good life. Hey.
boom, coming in hot, Chinchy. What's going on, brother?
Dude, I got my Islanders hat on, dude, because we're up north today, right? What are we doing? We're doing a little Canada stuff going on here.
Bro, he's not. This guy's not in Canada. He's in Richmond right now, but he will be in Canada soon. But listen, Chinch, this is a long time coming. I have no idea why this guy wasn't one of our first guests, but the fact that he's on now is very, very important. One of my greatest friends in the world. And I honestly, when I was going down, how do I introduce this guy? Listen, he's one of my best buddies in the world. But for all of our listeners are going to get to know, and you too, Chance, probably the greatest human being on the face of the earth. Most humble, too, so he's going to be mad I said that.
Not
but
even
care. I'm
close.
saying it anyway. This guy's one of the greatest human beings on the face of the earth. 11 years in pro baseball, played in the big leagues with me with the Cincinnati Reds in 2003. He's currently the first base coach for the Toronto Blue Jays. Let's give it up for my man, the Bud Man, Mark Budzinski. What's up, Bud Man?
Case, Chance, thanks for having me, man. You should have waited many more years because I'm going to put your whole audience to sleep.
No way.
I'm talking my monotone voice.
What you're dropping? You're not dropping. This is Richmond baseball alum with you in college back when Sean Casey was wearing like sloppy clothes and probably like showing up late to class and cheating off his friends. Like, let's start there real quick. That's how you guys met, right?
You know, every fraternity party, you're stealing all the girls. That's what he was doing. You know, that's what was going on. You know, it made it tough on the rest of us. But great times, man. I miss those days. It seems like a couple of years ago, and you look back, and it's been almost 30 years. It's crazy.
Bud, man, I was drafted. We were both drafted out of Richmond and played our first, both by the Cleveland Indians, obviously the Guardians now. They're Indians back then, so I'm speaking, past tense. And, Bud and I played our first year together in Watertown, New York. We lived together. I remember my dad, Chinch, Bud's the most organized guy going, probably the hardest working guy in the world. Remember, I'm getting ready to go to Watertown, New York, and I'm going to be living with Bud. My dad grabs right before I'm leaving and says, hey, listen, he goes, you don't want to ruin a friendship. He's like, Bud is a great friend. He's going to be a dear friend for life. He's like, you got to not be a slob. He's like, you got to make sure you pick up after yourself. And then about 3 weeks into Watertown, New York, I looked around the room and was like, God, I'm just a bad friend. I got stuff everywhere.
One of the greatest, genuine, most humble people I've ever met in my life is a Case man, and one godfather to my son. So great times. And, the only thing I learned that I didn't really know about Case when we first roomed together was the sleepwalking episodes. And we had some good ones. We had one on the road where we had a guy by the name of Walter Owen staying with us and during the playoff run, and Case was going at it one night. I'm like, I'm used to this. It's no big deal. I didn't even make a peep. And Walter's like, what's Casey doing? What's Casey doing, bud? Oh my God. I was like, Walter, we're good. He's just sleepwalking. Just tell him to go to bed. He'll lay down. And that was that.
Well, here's the thing, Bud. I mean, and Chinch, I was a really bad sleepwalker at the time. It was like I was 21 years old. Just turned 21. Just, my mom's family is all sleepwalkers, the McHughes, so we're a mess. So Bud knew I was a sleepwalker all the years at Richmond and everything and living with him. So when we were in Watertown, New York, we had to switch rooms because the school had come back, so we went to this hotel, and we had to get 3 to a room. So this guy, Walter Owens from the University of Miami, was on the cot. And, I was on the cot. Bud was in a bed, and Walter Owens was in a bed. And, dude, I had one of my episodes, and I'm standing over Walter Owens in his bed, and he was like, Bud, what's Case doing? What's Case doing? Yeah, and Bud's like, Case, go back to bed. That's all you had to say to me was go back to bed, and I would. But you need to know the key words. And so forever, Walter Owens will be scarred for life for sleeping with us. And the next day, Chinch, he went to the GM and was like, "You got to get me out of Casey and Bud's room."
One other quick sleepwalk story that I heard secondhand was with Chris Granada, who Case played with in Kinston. He was a level above me. And he had a lamp one night over Chris's head, like while he was sleeping. And Chris turned on the light switch in case it's like, put that down, go to bed. Just in case, put it down, and went to bed.
A lot of sleep problems with some of my roommates over the years, especially in the minors when you had to share a room. It was deadly. That's so great. Bud, man, couple things, bro, really quick to throw out at you. First off, I wake up this morning and it says, I don't know if you've seen the headline, but it says, Blue Jays expected to be the number one bidder for Juan Soto. I mean, that's gotta at least feel good if you're the coach, one of the coaches for the Blue Jays. First off, what do you see in Juan Soto? You got to see him up first in the AL East, and you obviously had to game plan for him too as a coach. What did you see from him? What impressed you the most? And what would your pitch be to Juan Soto to come to Toronto?
Yeah, so I've heard a little bit about it. I read a lot of the stuff that you read too, and obviously we're number one just as like an organization. So excited that he's considering us. He's got really any option in the world, and for me, just watching him this year, obviously being in the AL East together, see him a little bit more than I have in the past. To me, he's the toughest at bat in the big leagues because not only is he a great hitter, he won't swing outside the zone. So if you don't throw him something that he can handle, he'll just walk and he'll let Judgy come up and try to do some damage, right? So, but then if you're like, all right, we're going to attack him here, he hammers the ball from the left field foul line to the right field foul line. I mean, he handles everything. He uses the whole field. He drives the ball everywhere. He's just a pain, and obviously he's got pop too. So for me, he's like the most complete hitter in the game. Is the way I would determine it. Term it, and obviously if we can put him and Vladdy back to back in some aspect with the rest of our lineup, that would be super exciting for our organization, our team. As far as Toronto goes, Case, I've fallen in love with Toronto. It's just a great town. It's full of wonderful people, very diverse town. Every kind of restaurant you can imagine, whatever food you like, it's there. So great people, very walkable. When I stay up there, I don't even take a car. I live downtown and just walk to, the ballpark, to the Rogers Center and all over town. And, you've got the water right there. It's beautiful in the summer. Typically temperatures in the 70s and 80s. I don't know the Celsius as well, which the Canadian people use more, but I'll stick with the Fahrenheit. But it's just gorgeous. And obviously you've got a newly renovated stadium from the clubhouse as well as the actual, where the fans sit. So that's top notch, along with our spring training facility down in Dunedin, Florida, is what I think is the best in baseball. So, from a resources standpoint, from, a city, a town, obviously we want to be much better than we were last year and compete for, the playoffs and a World Series title. And we feel like Juan can help us do that. So just like I said, excited that he's considering us and hoping and praying that he chooses the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, you also have, I would argue, one of the best president and CEOs in all of sports. I'm not just talking about baseball, in Mark Shapiro. So, like, back in the day, remember, like, when we were growing up in, like, the 80s and 90s, it was like, oh, well, you can't get a guy to go play in Canada. I think now you guys are literally one of the classiest franchises in all of sports. And I think it's a testament to Mark that people really consider going there, and it's a great place to play baseball, right?
No doubt, Change. Thanks for bringing that up. Mark and Case and I go way back too. Obviously from our Cleveland days, he was the farm director originally when we were drafted, and then obviously moved up his way, the GM, president, now the president of the Blue Jays. So he, along with Ross Atkins, have really done a fantastic job in Toronto of building a culture of winning culture. And a place to come have fun, play hard, and obviously we have lofty goals to win championships there, multiple championships, and we need to get to the playoffs first. That's the first step this year. But he's just a fantastic human being, great leader. Cares a ton about the game, developing players, about the human being, and him or herself, and just a pleasure to work under him, Ross, and everybody else with the organization.
Bud, man, I want to stick right there. Obviously Mark is a dear friend of ours, friend of the show too, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And obviously wonderful leader, which obviously you're seeing the Blue Jays will be in it every year. And that's another big reason Juan Soto's in the conversation. You talked about Vladdy Jr. And, for you, that gets a chance to be with this guy every single day. You've gotten to see him grow up. I mean, you've seen him since his rookie year, and now you see him now. What are you seeing from him as a leader? And what do you see from him, especially this year, Bud, man, as like maybe taking that next step to a superstar?
Yeah. I'd like to start by just talking about the person, if I could, Case. I'll get a little emotional because this is like a special human being.
Wow.
This guy is, he takes care of so many people. He travels with several family members, cousins that he takes care of that also help him, I'm sure. But the side I see from it is just he just cares about his family, his friends, people around him. Let me give you one quick story. So when Juliet passed away back in 2022, he found a picture online that one of my family members posted. I'm not sure if my sister or my mother, I think on Facebook or one of the sites. And he took it to an artist and had a rendition. It was actually in my 47th birthday picture that he took it to an artist and had a painting done. And this thing's like life size. This thing is enormous. And had it shipped to me about a year ago. And so just like, doing things like that just speaks to the kind of person, the caring person that he is, number one. As a player, obviously, we've seen what he can do on the field. There's another great year. He put up the MVP type caliber year that he puts up. He cares about offense, defense, the clubhouse. Case, you mentioned leadership. I think he's not finally, but really starting to kind of feel like, this is his team and he needs to be the one to be out in front of it. And he's getting more comfortable speaking in team meetings and leading. And a lot of times he's not the most outspoken person, but he'll do it quietly. He'll grab a guy, pull him aside, have a conversation because he cares about him. And he wants everybody to be at their best and to succeed and help us win, like I mentioned earlier, number one, a championship and multiple championships in the years to come. But I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him on and off the field, in the clubhouse. He's got a great little family now with a couple girls. He's a fantastic human being. I couldn't say anything more kind or positive about him. I just love being with him every day, seeing his smile, and love going to battle with him.
Bro, I mean, what an incredible story, especially the stuff with Julia and the fact that he has that heart. We don't get to see that. We see the player. Right. You get to see the man. You get to see the person. So to hear those stories, man, I'm hoping he's back too. I know the Blue Jays. Mark's got a lot to do. I mean, you gotta open up the pocketbook to probably get those two caliber players. But just to hear those stories, Bud, man, about how great of a human being he is incredible. And I think the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I remember playing against Vladdy Jr. I'm a big Latino food guy. Well, I was a big food guy, all food, but I love like the rice, the beans, the beefsteak, all that stuff. And Vlad's mom, would travel with Vlad, and wherever Vlad would go, whenever we go into Montreal, whoever the Latino guys were on the team, I always say, hey, listen, I got to be in. Tell Vlad. And then when he would get to first base, I'm like, listen, don't just send it over to the Latino guys. I'm in. I need to be in on it too. So he'd come over, and they'd always bring me like something separate, like, hey, Case, this is for you. Vlad's, and I hearing Vlad Jr. being the way he is, like, that's exactly how his dad was too. So the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You know what I mean?
No doubt. And his Vladdy Jr.'s grandma, same person, is still around. Still cooks.
Oh, that's so great.
She's still doing it, and food's incredible. And we have way more options food wise than we did probably 20 years ago now. That right. And I'm all out of clubhouse, but all the guys still love her food the best.
That's so great, dude. That's great to know, dude. That's great to know.
Yep.
But man, I want to stay right there too. You talked about 20 years ago playing. When you and I were in the big leagues and then, when you look at the game now, especially for you, man, because I was so glad for me that I got a chance to get back in the dugout last year with the Yankees and really start diving into numbers, having to prepare a hitters meeting, look at the numbers. Guys want certain numbers that, we didn't maybe necessarily have or need at the time. And I know, Bud, man, you're big on you're, like I said, you're one of the most prepared human beings that I know. So I know as a coach too, you're at that level. Can you talk about the analytics in baseball today? And as a coach, especially an outfield coach and the things that you do, what are some of the analytics that you're going to every day? Is there 2 or 3 analytics that Mark Budzinski's taken? So, okay, I'm going to present these to the guys.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Case. There's a lot more information available now in analytic form, and that's because the technology has just gotten better and better. We can get a lot of information with Hawkeye and StatCast data and these high-speed cameras that can capture things that we couldn't capture back in the day, as the technology's gotten better and better. And so there's a ton out there for sure. Our advanced reports are lengthy, as I'm sure a lot of organizations are. So we feel like as coaches, it's our job to kind of, take out some snippets of what can help a player, right? Because as players, we can get locked up with too much information.
Yeah.
It's good to have information, but you don't want too much because you also want to use your ability and your preparation, your plan, and whatever your goal is for that day to be able to, come to fruition by your talent, your ability, and your preparation, right? So for me, obviously, I work with the outfielders and the base runners. So a lot of the analytics I look at are kind of where to play in the outfield, and we have several people that put together information for me. One being Dan Goldberg, who does a lot of our positioning for the infielders and outfielders that we have conversations on around that. And then I read swings, and I'm watching players every day too to make sure everything's adding up. On the bases, it's trying to get tendencies, right? Ways that we can take advantage of guys, whether it be for stealing bases or balls in the dirt, counts that we can run in. It's not rocket science by any means, but we just have more information. And to be able to drill down into that information and to use it, at game speed, so we can help get an extra 90 feet on the bases, that could be the difference in a game with a base hit, right?
But are the metrics out? Because one thing I hear from guys, we talk about the pitching and all this stuff about, the pitching's so much better and all that stuff. And listen, I don't know if the pitching is better. I do think that there's more guys have, those bridge gap relievers probably have better stuff than probably guys back in the day, velocity wise. But one of the things I heard from players was defensively, these guys are in in exactly the spot they should be in. And for a team like Toronto, who has Varsho and Springer and these guys in the outfield that are some of the best outfielders in the game. I mean, you're running a bunch of center fielders out there. It seems like no balls drop out there. But is that true, Bud? Or do you have better information for, this guy right here, Juan Soto, he's going to hit, this pitch, here, we're going to play them in a certain spot?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we now have, the information on the cards that we use have, each of our pitchers versus each of their hitters. So for Jordan Romano versus Eric Swanson, it may be different, right, on where we're going to play a Juan Soto, for example. And guys get to obviously I hear a lot of guys getting down to first where guys are standing to hit a line drive at somebody or one hot ground ball and a guy's standing there and they're like, gosh darn it, man, like why he shouldn't be standing there. And you're exactly right. It's because the data is way better now. We have way more information. And to me, it's harder to hit for that reason, because guys are standing in spots that you're hitting the ball more often, as well as you mentioned, the pitchers. You can measure all these, the spin rates, the RPMs on the spin rates now. So you can tell where your curveball is that day, where your slider is that day, where your fastball, how that's running, if it's a four seam, if it's got ride on it or not. And so to be able to make those adjustments in game, we didn't have that information for. You're just going with your eyes. I'm like, all right, he doesn't have it today, right? Now what?
Right.
It's more like I can make an in-game adjustment. And unfortunately, I wasn't in the big leagues only for a few days. You had 15 years or whatever case, so I didn't get to see many of those great arms that you were in the box against. But I can tell you, running by, as I go to first base, a lot of times running behind the catcher, I'm like, thank God I'm not in the box today. I got no shot, 0 shot.
Wait, so sticking with first base, and I always love, as a baseball player, like your first base coaches, that's like your almost like your dad, right? When you're in a slump, you get to first, and they're the ones that like grab you on the shoulders, like, you're gonna be okay, like everything, all that stuff. But I have a serious question because you seem so analytical. All of a sudden, the rules change, right? So there's a pitch clock, and then there's the throw over rule. So now, Did you sit down and go, wait a minute, how do we handle this? How is it going to change how we steal bases? How is it going to change how I coach? And, there's some guys that do the slow jump start. Are you looking at the clock? Are you figuring things out to say, okay, how do I adjust my base runners to these new rules?
Yeah, so when we heard these rules were coming, we had several Zoom meetings and discussion strategy sessions about, how is this going to play out? And I think every team, lost an earpiece there. I think every team has different thoughts. That's what happens when you have big ears. These things don't stand. Every team has different thoughts about that, but I don't want to share all our secrets, but there's certainly are strategies there, right? So when I can't imagine like a Tim Raines and a Willie McGee these days, what they were doing in the '80s, like with these rules, like they'd be stealing 200 bases probably, and Ricky Henderson, but I will say this too: the pitchers have made some adjustments on slide stepping more often. You definitely you rarely see a guy now that doesn't have a slide step. Now that doesn't mean he uses it all the time. But more and more guys are, they're in the 1-2 to 1-3-5, 1-4 range. Where back in the day there were a lot of 1-5s around. Now to get a 1-5, you can't wait to get somebody on base, right? But certainly with the number of picks and the vault leads that you mentioned there that you're talking about that a lot of guys are using, there's definitely a lot of opportunity to make it. I think that the fans wanted some more offense. And this has brought some more offense and some of that excitement back to the game for sure.
Nice. Hey, wait, hold on, Case. I gotta stay there because we're talking rules, right?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So this is for both of you though, because Sean, I want you to answer this too. We haven't talked about it. The golden at bat that they're talking about. Everybody needs reading. Twitter is like out of control right now over this. Like thumbs up. Roger Clemens was like, "What?" Like went crazy on this today. So the golden at bat rule would be you can put a player into the lineup at a certain time during the game, no matter what, if they batted or didn't bat. Everybody knows this rule. Whatever. Case, you first, and then Mark, your thoughts on this rule.
I think it's going to have to determine too. Like I was reading something from Jason Stark. He was saying so Bobby Witt hits and then he comes up and Bobby Witt hits again. Like you know what I mean? Like. It'll have to be something like maybe you can't hit back to back, and also too, is it seventh inning or later? I actually like it, to tell you the truth. I actually like it, and this is the reason I like it, because I think in this day and age of how people watch baseball, how people do life, everything's so grandiose, and at the end of the day, if you're not a huge baseball fan and you have the MLB.com app, you might not know what happened in the games. You might not care what teams, but I tell you what, the next day you're going to look in to see the 30 golden at bats. You're going to look in and say, I want to see the 30 golden at bats and what these guys did. And it was it was Ohtani versus Trout, like it was in the WBC, or Judge versus Skeens. And the other way to think about it too, it is true in every other sport. When the game's on the line, they're giving it to LeBron with 12 seconds to go, and he has the ball in his hand. He's going to dictate the game. Michael Jordan back in the day, Sid Crosby, or whoever the great hockey players are, in football, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, these guys have the ball in their hands. They're determining the game. In baseball, you could have 7, 8, 9 to finish it off in the ninth, and you're like, wah, this game's over. I just think it's good. It will bring more fans. I know a lot of people probably don't want to hear that. I didn't think I would be saying this, but when I started to think about it and look at it more, I'm like, hey, you got to evolve with the times, and this is where we are with the times, I think. Bud, you look like you're just going to say no.
I read the same article, so I read that same thing, and it's interesting. I've never shut anything down just from the start. I just read it yesterday, so this is kind of new to me too. I'm more of a traditionalist, I'll say that much. So like when the whole thing with extra innings started about we're gonna have a runner on second base, I'm like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. But you know what? It's better than playing 18 innings and the next day having no pitching.
Right.
So I always want to give things a chance. I guess is what I'm saying, because I think that made a lot of sense to offer the next day's game that still is a competitive game for the fans. But I agree with too that this game's been going on 100 some years, right? We have to be able to be willing to look at some different avenues to engage fans. It's especially it's it used to be a 3.5, 4 hour game. Now we're down to about 2:30, 2:45.
Yeah, I know as a coach.
Right?
I know as a coach, bro. You're happy about that. I was last year. I'm like, oh, thank God, we're out of here at 2:30. It's great.
I think as a fan too, it's hard for people to sit around for 3+ hours, right? To watch a game unless it's the playoffs. And so I think baseball's trying to do, Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball are trying to do things to keep people engaged, which is a good thing. This one specifically, Case, you mentioned about that, the offense in other sports always is in control, right? In baseball, the defense has the ball. And so it's just a different sport. And so I think what we're trying to do is line up a way to make it more interesting. The defense has the ball, but now all of a sudden, wait. You got Aaron Judge coming up instead of somebody else at this point because you got that one golden at bat. It's definitely interesting to talk about. But from a traditionalist sense, it's like you earned the right to face 7, 8, 9 there too at the end of that game. So, I look forward to hearing more about it. It's interesting.
And also too, I mean, I know baseball's big on their records. I mean, that's a big thing about the Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, everything like that. I mean, if you're giving Aaron Judge an extra 70 at bats a year in big situations, you could see 180 RBIs being driven in.
Good point, Keith.
You know. I mean,
probably an extra 25 homers.
Yeah, exactly. You can see another 20. This guy had 85 homers a year because you're giving him that many more at bats.
That's a great point, Case.
You should have to make him wear like a golden helmet or something when they come out. Do something like the golden ball in a home run.
Yeah, like a 3-point contest where they used to change the ball for that last shot. Yeah.
Just go all out with it. You got to change the uniform.
So good. I want to stay with your coaching staff, Bud, man, because obviously, you're obviously very close with those guys, John Schneider and Walk and all those guys. But when Don Mattingly comes on a staff, Chinch and I go, Don Mattingly? You know what I mean? I was biggest Mattingly fan. Chinch is the biggest Mattingly / Yankee fan in the world, and we were kind of we're very intrigued when we see Donnie baseball in the dugout, and obviously we don't know him the way you know him. You've known him for a couple of years. Tell us about what he's like and what does he bring to that Blue Jays team?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been so lucky with our staff and the guys that I've got to work for over the last 6+ years, starting in the front office and obviously on the coaching staff as well as the guys you mentioned, along many others. And it's a fun group. It's a hardworking group. It's a committed group. And when Donnie came in, I was the same way as you guys, man. Like, I was an Orioles fan, so Chinch, forgive me, but, the Yankees were the enemy. Yeah. But Don Mattingly was somebody I wanted on my wall. And, that was – and we were coming out, man, that guy raked. And just watching him play and was all business, didn't mess around, played the game the right way, played third base as a lefty, for goodness sake. I mean, the guy did anything you wanted, and so you think coming in he's going to have a little bit of maybe arrogance or ego, and nothing like that. The exact opposite. Most humble, kind, caring, great dude that obviously knows the game inside and out. Is managed in multiple big cities. Loves players. It talks about players from other teams that that I've never met. I just sit there and listen and just so knowledgeable about, running a game, about the base running aspects that you would think a first baseman, third baseman, outfielder that he played some of his career wasn't a fast guy, but just cares so much about all aspects of the game. And just sit there and listen and learn every day from him and a lot of our staff. But Donnie's a very special human being and just been so lucky in the last 2 years to be able to spend some time around him.
Hall of Famer. Let's get him in a Hall of Fame one day.
That absolutely 100%.
When we were growing up, like our age group, come on. Yeah. He was the best player in baseball for most of the decade that we were growing up, having the Hitman posters up on the wall.
And if he didn't have the back issues he had, it would have been another 5 years of just kicking butt in the league. You know what I mean? It's he's a stud. It
would have been a slam dunk. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he was the best of the best. There's no doubt. But man, I want to go back a little bit to when you played your professional career 2005. At the end of 2005, you retired, and then you went into real estate, dude. You were dominating. You're starting your own thing, get going. You're selling houses, $1 million houses in the Richmond area, all over the place. And all of a sudden, you called me one day. You're like, Case, I got a call from Mark Shapiro and Terry Francona in Cleveland, and they want me to come manage, and Ross Atkins, they want you to come manage. They want you to get back into the game. And we know the grind of baseball. I mean, for anyone that doesn't understand, it's a grind of 8 months. Pretty much it's just every day you're there, 12 to 12. You're not really around. You travel a ton. So it's such a different life to be doing what you were doing in real estate and being around, all the time. And then all of a sudden you take the job with the Indians, Guardians, and get back into baseball. Can you take us back to that phone call and take us back to what was it about that offer that made you come, out of what you were doing and get back into the game?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. And I've never dominated anything, first of all, so I can't speak to that dominating real estate. But it was nice in those years to be home with young kids, and be around. After playing and having two young kids at the time, to be home for those years. But I just really missed the game. And what I found during going to real estate appointments, I was listening to MLB Network. On XM on the radio, right? And I'm listening to ex GMs talk about the game and that, and I'm like, man, the more the years went by, the more I was missing the game. And I honestly, just from a family standpoint, I never thought I'd coach professionally because I just wanted to be home. But I started missing the game so much, and Ross Atkins at the time was kind of the first conversation I had, because we would talk every 6 months or so, just catch up, about things other than baseball. But he would always end those calls, well, if you're ever thinking about getting back in, let me know. And like probably the third or fourth time he said that, I was like, man, I missed the game. What are you thinking? What do you got? And he's like, well, first of all, before this speaks to Ross and the human being he is, before we even say another word, go talk to Monica, my wife. And he's like, go talk to Monica, because we know what this life's like. She needs to be on board first. And so I did that. And her comment was, this is what's in your heart. This is what you are.
Yeah.
You're a baseball guy. You're too dumb to do anything else anyway.
That's not true.
That's the truth. And so, once she kind of gave me that support to think about it, Ross and I talked a little bit more on the phone, ended up flying up to Cleveland, meet with Ross and Mark and Tito and some others in the front office, Carter Hawkins, now the GM of the Cubs, and just some discussions around what they had available, and ended up being a managerial opportunity in Lake County, in A-ball in the Midwest League. And just so thankful for them for getting me back in. I can't imagine doing anything else. In those 4 years in the minor leagues as a manager, just learning a lot about the pitching side, because I haven't pitched since I was 12 years old. So learning about running a game and working with like Tony Arnold, Case, who you knew in the Cleveland organization, Rigo Beltran, who was a pitching coach on the staff with me. Those guys taught me a lot about running a bullpen, things to look for, that type of thing. And then just great coaches along the way. And then for Tito to give me the opportunity to be on his staff in 2018, along with Brad Mills and the other coaches, Sandy and Sarby and those guys there, was a lot of great learning experience. And again, Ross and Mark bringing me over to Toronto.
What was Tito?
Get on the field.
What was Tito like, bro?
He's unbelievable. His brain is like 3 steps ahead of me at any second.
Wow.
He's just so out in front of what's going to happen, what's going on, and not only that, he's fun to be around. Like he loves the game, loves baseball, he loves human beings, he loves people. He wants you to enjoy yourself. He wants to win bad, as you've seen. He's a future Hall of Fame manager. I mean, the guy he's so good with people and running a clubhouse and keeping everybody involved and stay on top of things. But at the end of the day, it's a game, making it fun and not backing down from a challenge. That's one thing he'll always say in spring training: we don't back down from a challenge. As we know, during the course of a long year, you're going to have some things go sideways, and how do you deal with that? And that's just a great lesson for life as well.
Yeah. Wow. Dude, Budman, you've played for a lot of great managers. You've been around the game a long, long time. What about Mark Budzinski? Would Mark Budzinski want to manage one day? I look at the guys that are managing or getting opportunities, and I know you, and I've been around a lot of guys. I think you would be an incredible big league manager. Is that something that you would want to do down the road?
Case, thanks for saying that, and that's not something I really have put any thought to, just because I'm focused on where my feet are right now and trying to be a better first base coach and help our guys get better, quite honestly. But if that were an opportunity down the road that come up, would be definitely something I'd be interested in, for sure. But right now, just enjoying where we're at and focus on needing to help do what I can to help our organization, the Toronto Blue Jays, be better this year and get back in the playoffs and make a run at a championship.
Okay, good. Well, I'm
Politician too. You could. That's a good.
I'm going to be his assistant right now and say, yes, Mark Budzinski be a hell of a manager. He's going to be a heck of a manager one day. I can't wait to see it. And that's might be the only reason I come out to be a hitting coach again, is to be Bud's hitting coach. That's the only reason.
Let's go viral with that. There you go. You
That needs-
Richmond.
Hey, Bud.
Hey, Chinch, we got that on video.
Yeah, we do.
That's done.
So, Bud, man, before we head out, I want to ask you also about, you got an awesome thing going on. I was involved for a little bit with Pyon. Tell us about that, what it is, and where can our listeners find it?
Oh, thanks for asking, Case. Yeah, there's a good buddy of both Sean and I's. His name's Mark Budzinski, who we played with in the Cleveland organization back in the day. He had a nice long career as well, 13, 14, 15 years himself. That got hooked up with a CEO by the name of John Croto with this company called Pyon. And what it is, briefly, is it's a wearable. Actually, I have it on.
There it is.
Looks like this.
Like a
My
whoop,
camera-
almost like a
my camera
whoop.
works not great, but it's a wearable, similar if you've heard of like a Whoop or Fitbit, those types of devices that measure a lot of things like sleep and health and wellness tracking, calories, things like that. The difference with the Pyon device is it's cognitive, so it measures basically the nerve bundle that runs from your brain down your shoulder into your wrist, and it can measure things like reaction time and decision making. And so that's the separator. It's a cognitive device that was actually started by two gentlemen, the owners that did it for ALS research, because they lost two people close to them in their lives, and wanted to be able to figure out ways where we can start identifying things like ALS, Alzheimer's, dementia sooner, to give people a better quality form of life. So that's an aspect as well. Not what I'm focusing on. I'm way too dumb for that. So my side is the sporting side and baseball. And so we're working on incorporating that into the game, as well as things like actual baseball metrics, things like home to first step quickness, routes, infielder, outfielder execution, things along those lines. So lots to come in the future with Pyon, and excited to be a part of it. And in case, again, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, so where can we go, Bud? Pyon.com to check it out?
Pyon.com, yeah, Pison.
One of the things too that I know you guys are doing.
Guys, by the way, I'll put the link in our.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Chinch.
Thanks, Chinch.
One of the things too about that Pyon piece that Mark Budzinski had told me about too was the hydration part.
Yeah.
That is that coming along? Like, you could tell how much water you need or whatever.
That's probably in the next year or so, but that's something a lot of teams and obviously athletes are interested in, just to try to be able to identify that as a wearable, and to make an adjustment on the fly quicker before a soft tissue injury occurs.
But
we're always fighting trying to keep guys hydrated.
Where was that in Richmond when I was getting those leg cramps on the vans?
In the vans, eating dinner with Matt Quatrero, Kevin Gibbs. Yeah, we've been there many times, but you more than anybody, Case.
I get those leg cramps. I kick butt off the Chinch. We'd be in these like vans, cramp van. We're University of Richmond. We had no money. Bud just, we just get done with the game. I kick Bud like through the window. He'd be like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "Leg cramp, double hamstring cramp, not one, two hamstring cramp. Where's my Pyon wearable that I could freaking know?
Yeah.
I have not had enough water."
You probably wouldn't have the back leg kick if you had all this water stuff. Wait, hold on. I got to stay at Richmond one more time before we let you go, Mark. You've been awesome. But I got to go back. I am an unapologetic Dave Matthews Band fan. There's ups and downs.
Yeah.
There are people on both sides. You guys were both at Richmond University when Dave Matthews and Boyd Tinsley and all those guys, Carter, the bartenders, I don't even want to get into
Carter Beaufort played football at Richmond, I believe.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, the drummer.
You guys are in college, and you are at the bar where I have all my mixtapes from like 1994 at.
The Flood Zone.
The Flood Zone. And apparently, I actually have this one tape where a fight occurred between Richmond baseball players and some other guys, at the flood zone, and Dave Matthews broke up the fight from the stage. Can you guys tell this story, please?
We may or may not have been there that night, but we'll let Case tell this one.
We were there. It was me, Bud, and our buddy Jay Adams. And for whatever reason, wherever Jay went, we always fought. I'm like, why are we fighting? What are we doing? We're just having fun, And I think Dave was singing, "Seek up and emotion, and your cup is overflowing." And I'm like, me and Bud, we got the love hug going. We're swaying back and forth. Little Dave Matthews dance going. We're at this. Dude, Dave Matthews was a local band, like a local Richmond band,
Charlottesville. Charlottesville. Yeah.
So Bud and all we listened to was Dave Matthews bootlegs. So we were there. It was a Wednesday night. It was pretty packed. He's starting to get a little better. I remember our buddy Jay Adams like. He comes up and whispers in my ears. He's like, "Hey, you got my back?" I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "This guy is bumping into me." I'm like, "Everyone's bumping into everybody, dude. It's a packed house at the flood zone. You can't not bump into people." It's like, "Yeah, but I don't like the way this guy's bumping into me." Before I can say, "Don't do this, Jay," all of a sudden, Jay turns around and bam, clocks this guy right in the face. I'm like, "Oh, here we go." Next thing you know, Bud's scrambling. He's trying to get in. We're trying to. So it's so packed, Chinch. Another guy grabs Jay's arms and pulls him back. And by the time Bud and I are running to get to Jay, all we can see is he's wide open like this, arms back. And this dude comes and bam, hits him right in the nose, blows Jay's and breaks his nose. Blood goes flying everywhere. And the concert now has stopped and Dave Matthews just going, "Peace, my brothers, peace. Let us not fight," right? And then, right, Bud? Is that what you remember?
Yeah, exactly.
And then we go outside. I don't know if you remember this, Bud. We get kicked out of the flood zone. We go outside, and the dudes that we fought had jumped in their car, and Jay was so pissed off. We hear sirens coming. I'm like, this isn't good. So, but Jay takes this beer bottle, and it was like a scene from a movie, Chinch. I'm not kidding you, dude. This is real stuff. This car is speeding away. And they're about to bust a left, like Starsky and Hutch. That's what they look like, two Starsky. They're about to bust a left. Dukes of Hazzard. Freaking Jay had a cannon of an arm. He freaking rears back, Bud Light bottle. Lets this thing rip. It just starts. It's like 96 with Sync, just ripping. Right? The thing's about to turn. The car's about to turn. This bottle goes right through the back windshield and spider webs it. Spiderwebs it down. It turns, and we're out the door. We got back to Richmond, but anyway, what a night it was. Me, Bud, Jay Adams, and a few other baseball guys were there.
And
bunch of Richmond guys.
One of the most popular bands in the history of the world at this point. They to the
crazy.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you clowns were at a bar with them.
Literally, Chinch, when they started, there was like maybe 50 people there. And then 2 years later, there were like, you couldn't get in the door. Like Case is saying, it's like you're getting bumped from everywhere, and they just blew up. And I remember going, like, in the summers being home and going back to Richmond. I grew up in Maryland and going back for shows. Because, like, my parents were like, "Where are you going?" Like, "Hey, Dave Matthews. These guys are really good, man. These guys are fantastic. They're going to be pretty good." I didn't realize that.
You're right.
Dude, I remember my sister telling me, all I listened to when I came home from college was Dave Matthews bootlegs, and I would tell my sister, Beth, I'm like, "Beth, these guys are really good." She goes, "Are you kidding me?" She goes, "We got a ton of local bands at Penn State, too, college bands. They're all really good." I go, "No, I'm telling you, they're going to be good." So, Beth, wear that one. They were legit. Turns out they're
legit.
So great.
Unbelievable.
You guys are legit. You guys are legit friends.
Every other show we went to, Chinch was under control. No issues. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one that got out of hand a little bit.
That's the only one. And Dave Matthews, he wasn't happy either. Nobody was happy at that point. Nobody. Well, Bud, man, brother, I love you tons, man. I mean, enjoy the off season. I know you guys have just gotten going and gotten started. So, are you going down the winter meetings?
Not going to the winter meetings this year, but look forward to spring training kicking off here in a couple months.
Okay, man.
We'll be going soon. Can't wait.
Bud, man.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me on, man. It's great to see you both. Always a pleasure, and enjoy the holidays with your families.
You're the best. You too, Bud, man. And have a great Christmas coming up. And I'll talk to you here soon. But thanks for coming inside the mayor's office with Chinch that day. Really, really enjoyed it, brother.
You're the man, Case.
See you,
Thank you,
buddy.
brother.
All right, man.